Welcome to Manifested Publishers. We continue with our blog series, December 2024, question 2. We proceed with reading the question. In Public Finance Management Seminar, one of the facilitators noted the Public Debt Management Office is tasked with the responsibility of conducting an analysis of debt sustainability in public sector. With reference to the above statement, outline 3 benefits of conducting annual debt sustainability. Outline 3 benefits of conducting annual debt sustainability. So the first thing to understand is to understand what you basically mean by debt sustainability. When you talk about debt sustainability, is basically the ability to pay debt without facing adverse adjustments to the income or revenue. Remember, debt sustainability, our debt payments are normally faced by social and political effects. So debt sustainability is ability to repay debt without adjusting the incomes and revenue. So the benefits of debt sustainability analysis, one of it we can say to guide. One we say to guide. We say to guide the government. We say to guide the government. To guide the government. To guide the government on optimal. We say on optimal funding. Optimal funding, to guide the government on optimal funding. Optimal funding. Options on its projects. And programs. On its project and programs. Basically to guide the government on its optimal funding or option on its project, maximum funding of the projects and its program. Number 2, benefit of debt sustainability, which you say the ability of the government basically to pay its debt without making adverse adjustments to its income and expenditure, is to evaluate. We say evaluates the government, what they call the government's ability, evaluates the government ability to finance. We say to finance its projects. Government's ability to finance its project and projects and services, and its services with its current debt. So ability for the government basically to use the current debt that it has to basically finance its services and project without taking another debt. That is the second benefit of what we call debt sustainability, benefit of debt sustainability. We can also talk about number 3, we say determine. Number 3, we can talk about determine. What do you say determine? Determine the fiscal space. Determine what you call the fiscal space. Determine the fiscal space available. We say available to the government. Available to the government. Fiscal space available to the government. With a view, we say with a view of, or to limiting, with a view to limiting, or determining, with a view to determining, we just say to determining, with a view to determining, or with a view of determining. We just note something here, we just note 2A. This is 2A. With the view of determining the borrowing limit, what you call the borrowing, with the view of determining the borrowing limit, borrowing limit, given, we say given the available, what we call available current debt, available current debt. Just to emphasize on something that is very important, when you look at developing countries, one of the things that is synonymous to developing countries is that most of the time they're not able to cover their budgets, so they end up borrowing. So when you talk about fiscal space available to the government with a view of determining borrowing limit with a given current debt, most of these developing countries, if there's not a debt sustainability analysis, they may overextend the borrowing limit. That's why you find the debt is ballooning when it comes to these developing countries. When it comes to debt, there's a ballooning effect where you find them moving to many trillions and borrowing. And if we basically would do the debt sustainability analysis, such we'll be able to determine the borrowing limit and not to overextend. We can add a few more points to what we have covered by saying that to detect current, to detect what you call current and future, to detect the current and future potential, current and future potential, fiscal stress. Remember, debt can actually put a stress on the country, fiscal stress that might be caused, we say, by the external shocks, with a view, to preventing what you call crisis, with the view of preventing crisis. Some of the reasons why we find a country is extending the tax bracket is basically because of borrowing. So some of the effects of over-borrowing is that the common man would be faced with challenges of over-taxation. And this question is not limited to the points that we've given. There could be many other points that we have. We can determine also solvency and liquidity status of a country. We can talk about determining, we can just say the last one, determining the solvency, what you call the solvency, and what you call liquidity of a country. Determining the solvency stroke liquidity of a country. That is how we basically handle that question 2 Roman A.